here.
I hate to, because we could probably talk, I went down to the Historical Society the other day just to do some background research, and you wouldn't believe, I just ended up talking to people, and it just, the time just flew. And what I'm trying to do, the course...
tell me what you're doing, I'm interested.
The course is folklore and
Oh,
folklore.
folklore, I love it.
And I see as, I'm going a step beyond what my professor wants, I think. She wants folk with, well, I chose the area of stories and legend that are passed down orally. Once they're written down and then they go into another genre, they're really written down. But I was thinking that Ellicott City area, including Howard County, is probably rich because they're these old families.
We're rich in the heritage of the early country.
But you know what? I noticed that Ellicott City, up until recently, and Howard County, have been ignored. Even
yes,
in American history books.
Yes, we have. We have. I don't know why. Yes, I can give you the reason why. I can give you the people out and the outlying area. We are reserved in our knowledge or our heritage, which we should. It's so personal. Until recent years. Yes, took it for granted, that's all right.
Right. But the thing is that develops in communities is stories. In fact, one man, and this is just one I've heard of, it was even documented in Celia Holland's book on Ellicott City, with Mr. Whoosh.
Oh my God.
He became, from what I can tell, probably a legendary figure.
Oh, he was simply, of course, your grandmother would know. I'm sure he was in Ellicott City, the policeman there, the head policeman, whatever they called him. When she came down to school, went up to the old wooden school, it's no longer there, but we'd come down on the train, and he'd come up and he'd be outside, and of course, kid like, you especially if you were a farmer's person, you just had to talk to everybody because you didn't have that close connection on the farm. So we just looked up to him, and truly, I can truly say this: as long as I can remember Mr. Wish, I don't think he ever had any real serious troubles in Ellicott City. Truly, he didn't. Because I can tell you a couple instances. There'd be some man way up the street drunk or something, and he'd say to somebody, "Well, you take him on up to the courthouse, up to the jail." And the man went, and nobody put up a big howl to my knowledge. And then, of course, he went up. He was following him up, but not just that minute. And I used to think he was the most marvelous person on earth, standing there so stately, I thought, and he'd know you. He'd get to know you, and of course, he got to know us on the train because he saw us coming down. He saw us getting off the train, coming up to Ellicott City to the old wooden schoolhouse, and he saw us coming down. We didn't come down at 4 o'clock. They wouldn't let us out, which I think was marvelous. Maybe they could keep us there till 4:15, or maybe they tried to, and then because we had to wait till 6 o'clock for the train to bring us on up the road.
Where did you?
I walked to Woodstock, and I walked to Woodstock, imagine it.
I know.
And that is something, we walked across, now we didn't walk all around the road, that I will tell you. Only when it was a very severe rainstorm, and we couldn't get over the branch. We had a branch that we walked it. We left here every morning at 5:07 in the morning, we left. 5:07. A friend over on Woodstock Hill, two I shouldn't say old maids, because there I am. Anyway, little friends of the family, and one of her sisters worked in the mill, because she didn't get on the train. We didn't came up on the train. And her sister would have the old lantern lit for us, especially from December and January, maybe February. But that, by now, it's the fairly well light, getting a little light at 6 o'clock here. About 6:30 now, I'd say, well, you could still see. And we did not tarry on the road whatsoever. And morning, and I don't recall missing your aunt at your grandmother's sister, your grandmother's sister, and my sister went to school the same time at Ellicott City. They were in the same class. Your great aunt Florence.
Okay.
And she was a Dorsey. And she came in from one end from Howard County, and we came up the other end. And of course, and I guess your grandmother,
She boarded
she was.
until the beach.
Well, now maybe your Aunt Florence did.
No, I think she
I can't answer. I truly, now my sister could tell you more. I couldn't tell you too much, but I know they came in from one end of one side of the county, we came from the other side. We got to know each other. So, Mr. Wish, and he looked up the street, and he looked down the street, and I just thought he was a marvelous soul. I thought he was so dignified looking. He was tall, and he had that air about him that, I just thought he was somebody important. And he was important. He was the head chief police down there. I guess through the county. I don't know.
Yes, that's what my reading said, that it was, he was the head of the
Police
whole
department.
county.
Yes, and I'm
the
telling-
only one for a while.
Yes, the only one. And I can tell you, in Ellicott City, maybe you would find somebody, well, kind of a drunk, but not like I've seen them, not like I have seen them in the past 20 years that really were drunk.
Right.
But you just, and you didn't mind, you felt safe. I did. Of course, maybe I didn't have any reason to fear, but I felt safe without going up through the street and coming down through the street. It didn't bother me a bit. Nobody seemed to loiter around. I didn't see any of the, well, shall you call them, not exactly urchins, but they were children that, well, they weren't, they didn't have a great deal of home life, so they spent part of their life on the street, and there was nobody there. None of those children I can remember. Was out of place. They just seemed perfectly natural. They were there at that corner, and how long they stayed there, couldn't be too long. I don't know. Because Mr. Wish did keep that old street. When I knew him, and when did I know him from? 1920. Oh no, I graduated 24. 22. My gosh, I was counseling 22, and I was there 1917, and from 1917 to 1922, Mr. Wish was just fine. He was great.
Because it seems like there are a lot of tales around him. Another thing that I found, other than ghost tales at Howard County, there's very little passed down legends.
No, I have no legends to give you, but I have real facts to give you that could be included in like a legend.
Right.
But they were honest to goodness facts, and especially around the Civil War.
Right.
So,
But if they were passed, what I'm trying to reach is stories that were
they're passed down.
Even if they were true, Davy Crockett did live. Of course, he became
legendary as the time went on. Yes.
But stories that are passed down, I think my concern, if I can just take a second, is that these stories, now that the suburbanization or the suburban movement, Columbia, everything is kind of growing like a fungus, that Howard County will not retain this richness.
No, she won't. And I'm happy that there are people who are reporting it. A friend of ours who's from Boston what time he comes down, he talked with my sister, and then we've been friends ever since. And I said, I'll write some of it down. So he comes down. He said, I'm going to bring my tape recorder down. I said, oh, well, there's a lady down at, down here at, I think that was the place below, my gosh, I should know all these places now. That's terrible. Right below, below the cross, below Stackhouses, Tracy Stackhouses.
Yes,
that little, oh, I know that place so well. My golly day. Well, anyway, she has been, Susan's been up and out of she's taken some.
Right?
No, Susan. No, it wasn't Susan Wright. She went to, she had something to do with Mount Hebron, and my sister knew her, and she has 2 daughters in college. They're away from here. And, oh my gosh.
Where do they live?
I can tell you, I have her, because she called up, I've gone up with her to, what do you call the place up here? Not Birmingham, but
Waverly?
Waverly. We've gone up there. One time she came in, we went up to buy some greens, and I had all I needed. Oh, I should know. My gosh. What's that? Susan Tornator. Tornatorv. She lives on Maple Drive. And she's been up a lot of times and taped some recordings of different things. I don't know what for. Yes, I do know. I don't know what for. It doesn't matter.
Well, if she ever asks you again, the Historical Society really wants the only transcript. I have one that was tanned in. This is the only transcript they have in oral history from Mr. Talbot. And, talks about, things in the past. Because what I'm trying to say is that I think that we've worked in mass media, television, and radio. My little hypothesis is that our popular culture is so invaded that we don't sit around and share stories. And once the stories, whether they're true stories or kind of, that they usually have a basis in fact.
And they have to have a basis.
I think you can reach history. I think it's another angle. This
To
is
history.
my
Yes.
own idea.
Yes.
I mean, maybe
I
sure
think you're right on that. I think you're 100% right. That's the only way you're going to get the history of Howard County.
Well, for instance, the man that owns Waverly, the Odeneski, whatever it is.
I don't know. That's right.
Anyway, a name like mine, I can't pronounce it. He said that Waverly Inn was never a tavern, according to his research.
To my knowledge, again, there's not it was there before. I can give you some interesting facts about how they lost some of their land too. I don't remember ever hearing ever being a tavern, ever,
Or inn.
or an inn either, ever.
Okay.
All I remember there was a dwelling place, and I know Johnny Howard, who had one of these people. He lost some of, I don't know, about 20 or 30 acres. I don't know. Mrs. Taylor got it finally, but she didn't get it from him. She bought it from UFs, and UFs got it. I don't know how they got it. And he lost it through gambling. He had to pay a debt.
Yeah.
He had to pay a debt. And he took this, and way down here, there was a godforsaken part next to my great uncle's place, and he lost it. And that's how he paid his debt. They had to pay their debts, or gambling debts, and he lost it. I think through cards. I think that's how he lost it.
Where did people gamble around here?
Well, they was in their own homes. People had their own homes. People collected, and your neighbor come in, that neighbor, and they probably gamble a bit today, and maybe another time they come in, they gamble a little tiny bit tomorrow, or whatever they did, and there you are. Next thing he had a big debt, and so he had to pay off.
Now, who was this?
This was Johnny Howard. Now
Descendant of the Howards?
oh yes, direct descendant of one of the Howards up there. And then of course, the Howards did buy a lot of property around. They were not very anxious about your graveyards. I can tell you this, the Howard, not the old governor. Now he was of a different caliber, I'd say. Yet I don't know any of these, only by hearsay.
Right.
See, this is
Still, that's important.
This is by hearsay, and of course, oh, here's my freedom. He said if you didn't have a fence around that, they used to bury it on the farm.
Right.
People buried on the farm.
Right.
Now, the Browns have their cemetery over here on Mercury's place, and it has a nice wall. Well, it was nice. I was there this Christmas a year ago, and the back of it was going down. And we got in to see it with this friend from Boston who was very interested in cemeteries, which I wasn't.
Well, I just was reading a book. It's different types of grave carving indicate so many things that you can learn. I never understood it, and I read this book that we're supposed to be doing according to the thing, just about different architecture, different graving, things that are left that we can examine today and we can speculate. That's about all we can do.
I know that. Well, anyway, he was interested because I have some of my VAR land, so buried over there. For so anyway, he was interested, and I trailed along. I said I got the biggest cold that time, tripping over there, but that was all right. Anyway, he did enjoy it. He knew, of course, he knew what he was interested in. But so a lot of people buried on their lots, and these old families down here at the little square down here, Market Square. There was a cemetery there, and I don't know how. Of course, Susan told me about this too. She had gone over. I said, no, I had never gone over to that cemetery. Well, it was on another man's place, and we weren't quite that friendly that you felt like you could go. So I said, I knew when he took the old stone wall down and built some kind of a barn, and I said, the barn couldn't last. It just didn't last because he was disturbing our cemetery. He shouldn't have disturbed, I felt. Right. And anyway, but the last person I think was buried there was 1832 or something like that. So
what family? What?
It was, I can't remember. Susan told me, because she went up there and she and her son went up there and explored the tombstones. She couldn't understand why I hadn't. I told her that I hadn't. My mother didn't encourage us to go. Right. She didn't encourage us to go unless, they make ourselves a nuisance.
Right.
So, especially the girls, they had to stay put, That's unfortunate. Well, that's all right, too. And I saw they said there was nothing there. Well, I could believe it because they had no, because my father, 1911, was the first one in our church cemetery that had because my mother's people were buried in Loudon Park, and of course she knew the stipulations from there. So Hilsinger did the same thing up here for her when her husband died. So, of course, he had a wall grave. The others didn't. They had kind boxes. That's all they could afford. That was the thing with those days. And the body deteriorated fast, of course, naturally. And everything deteriorated along with it. It was just caved in. You just didn't know it because the next thing, it just went on. So, it's interesting.
Right, because there are certain values, I think, that just like in gravestone carving and architecture, the way people think, they don't realize it, but the way they order their space or think is the way certain things arise. And the same with stories.
And if you go back to, I think, there was a period of, they were quite, well, religiously inclined, I would say. If they had enough money, their tombstones showed carvings of angels or what have you at that time, and it was, I don't think we'd find it today then. Very definitely not, because we have not. But I think there was a period in our culture that no matter what church or anybody belonged to, they had a religiously influence from the Bible. And it was shown in the cemetery. And it was shown by these epitaphs quoted from the Bible, which, I'm sorry, I don't know. I should know. And I'm ashamed, but it's a truth. And I am not a student of life to know where this or that or the other is.
What about when you were raised in this home?
Right here in this house, I was born in this house upstairs.
Oh, my
upstairs,
goodness.
not room, upstairs, big room like this. I was born there. Born in December, cold December, right before Christmas. And I had to surprise everybody by coming too soon. But that's all right, I got here.
When's your birthday?
21st of December.
Oh, so it's right before Christmas.
Right before the shortest day of the year. I said, no wonder I couldn't get very far. I got the shortest day of the year. How could I grow? Anyway, I lived all my life right here in this house.
Marvelous. Birthday people.
Oh, he's through. He won't hurt you. Mochi, come here. Mochi, come over here. Mochi, come here.
It doesn't worry me because he's just smelling my dog.
I know come here, honey. Now, how did you, you got out. You wanted to come, you heard us. Get down. Mochi.
You smell sap, don't you? Can you sit?
No, he doesn't know anything. I'll let him out. Let's see if he
Oh, don't worry about it. He's fine.
Yeah, he'll be all right. Oh, listen. I sleep down there since I broke my hip. All my friends have put on a big scene that I shouldn't go up down the steps. Well, they really have got me timid to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I'm sleeping down there, and he'll sleep. Don't you dare go in there. He'll sleep when I have the door open. Yeah. He'll sleep right in between, looking out this way. I said, for the love of Peter. Well, anyway, what else was I? I guess I've lived on the farm all my life. I did not go to the public school over here in Wichita. Why? There was a great deal of contention I don't know, with the children and whatnot. They weren't all of them. Some of them were fine. But there was some that was quite rallyism. And we were very far way over here. So we didn't have compulsory education that time. So, not even in high school. We didn't go there. Then my father died in 1911. And then the following year my grandfather died. And we, two of us went up to St. Louis then because my mother, we had rented our place on Sherrod's, and you can see how the house was really easily divided because of its addition. Right. And we had the front part. We had the nicest, warmest part in the back, but that's another story. Anyway,
So you rented it to some people?
Whoever the farmer was, he lived there. The farmer lived there. And then after a while, he went down in a very nice tenant house, and someone went down there to do it because, well, I can imagine they did. There was a mother and a father and some sons and daughter, and one of the sons had married, and his wife, I could understand why she was not satisfied with everybody trying to do what they were doing too. So anyway,
well, there were a couple generations then living here as well, in your own home. Would you say, and this is all but was that the general were there a lot of multi-generational families at that time, or was that just like today? I'm living with my grandmother, so it's a multi-generational family, but was that
Those days-
done more often?
I cannot answer because, yes, to a certain degree, there were people, well, I'll go back to my grandfather, Brown, whom I did not know because he died quite early. He had his sister living here with him until she married. This seems to be the gist. I speak here in the county. The older people looked after the other members of the family, and you didn't just go off. You stayed. You came back and stayed. You stayed with them till you made up your mind. You might have stayed there your whole life. That's quite constant. Why I speak of this, when my father bought out my mother, came here to live in 1901, and there was an aunt who wasn't very happy. Well, I could understand her situation. She wasn't very happy that my father married. Well, I can tell you what. She saw the breaking up of a unit of a family. And I guess she saw the writing on the wall. That I'm like to be left out too now. I'm going to get my whole share, whatever it might be. But anyway, my mother did go back to her people for 1 year till my father made up his mind. And it was fortunately one of the Jesuits who had married my father was his cousin. He told him, he called him Frank, he said, you are definitely a farmer. There's no question to it. Either you buy out your brothers and sisters or you get another place. Because you're not going to be happy only on the farm, and it's true. And so he decided to buy them out. And so an uncle of mine, his brother, he stayed with brother, and his brother loved him very much too. My father didn't have any money, but he loaned him the money, and he brought out all his two sisters and the rest of the family to his brother and another brother. The other one was there. And so then my mother came back here, and we lived here ever since. But only my brother was alive, and my mother went to her father's. He did not want her to leave. Because again, that was a big family connection. You stayed. They held you. They tried to hold you. The families tried to hold their members. Whether they thought it was their responsibility or whether they were closer. I think they were a closer knitted family than we are today. We today are on the go. We're on the move. I don't mean to go. We're on the move. We're just as loud as mine. We will. Was nothing. You made a venture out. You went out. You'd go west if you thought you had the opportunity to make make some livelihood. You went west. There were no questions about it. Before that, a rolling stone gathers no moss, so you stayed where you could gather your moss. You stayed put, and that's why. Then all of a sudden, there's a complete different change in your family life, as I see it. We're on the move. We're on the move. It's nothing for us now to have brothers and sisters living in a adjoining state or further on out, and we go tripping down there. Just nothing. But one time it was, oh, you shouldn't go far from home. Moochie, come away, honey. You're not very nice. You're not treating me this time. You have to be good. You don't know? I taught this young lady's mother. Can you imagine that? Yeah. Oh, really did? Sure did. Well, she's very nice to me. She's very alert. I'll say that.
That's what you need. You need that up there, right? But I thought to myself, Miss Brown was all alone up here.
Yes, and everybody says to me, "Weren't you know it?" I said, "No." "Weren't you afraid?" I said, "No." Now, maybe the guineas might have stirred a bit. I couldn't tell you. I didn't hear them. I was around here. But if I hear those guineas, I move and see what they're at.
Right.
There's one or two things. There is something around. It might be a dog, it might be a cat, it might be a skunk, it might be a fox.
Right.
Get down, Moochie! Push it. Moochie, get down here. Come here. All right, I'm going to turn you out. Would you like to go outside? I bet you would. Come on, let's go out and see what's outside. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on. Come on, we'll go out the front way and then you go the side way. All right, come on out. The sun's shining. You ought to like it out there. Go ahead, enjoy it while you can. You're going to get some rain. Something else.
Oh, gosh.
Tell me, I don't think I can afford any more digging out. That's 200, and what did I pay? 200. I paid $75 each time to get dug out, and I've been dug out 3 times. That's $225. Just to get in that old road, and you can see, I pray nobody comes in when I'm going out or coming in, whichever it is. Because it just be something. Rice, a Wilson place. I don't know anything about it. It must be a very lovely old home over there. And she says, I said, yes, well, she'd like to tell me that 2 years they were going to open up the senior citizens or retirement homes, tell you the truth. And she said, of course you ain't really been here to. My God, when she finished talking, I was like a limp piece of a cloth. I really was. She really took all the starch out of me. I thought, my God, she sat there. So what did I do? I went to see my sister up here, Sexton Wilson. And they're having a big jamboree for the heart on the last March. So I went, I know I tell stories up there once a month. So I go up this Friday and tell stories. This time, first time in my life, I'm going to, instead of telling them stories, I'm going to read the story to them. I'm seeing if that will hold their attention better. Because last time they had me on the 3rd floor where the patients, I felt their mental ability was nil. And I thought, well, now if I try, sometimes I told them, I would tell them if Frances, my sister, could be with me. I didn't want her to think she was ever left out. Right. And I've been down the 1st floor in the recreation room and the 2nd floor. And then some of them brought some of them up on the 3rd floor. But last time it was just one man, he found I was there and he asked him could he come up and they said yes. And he's been to quite a few stories if he likes them.
What kind of stories did you tell?
I generally try to take Washington's birthday, I take Lincoln, I take all the people that I know of that I guess I deal mostly with patriotic stories. That's what I deal with. That's what I like. I like social studies, and that's what I deal with. And this time, I'm not going to have anything like that. Since it's so late in the day, they're very late this time, and it's my fault too, and their fault 3. The snows came, and all this bad weather, and of course that hindered everything. So anyway, I go up there, and this time I'm going to read them stories. What am I going to read them? I'm going to take the Just So stories. I think Kipling's stories. They're short, and they're kind of good, I thought. And it might be, I would like to try that with them. Just see if I get a better response. Now, Christmas time, I told the legend of the Christmas rose. I had to modify it for them. I had told it for 2 other places, senior citizen, the teachers, the retirement teachers, their dinner, and then they heard about it in my church, and they thought, I thought, well, yes, I should tell it to the Sunday schools there, too. So they had a program, and they brought me in, and I said, fine. In the spring, I gave the legends of the flowers, because again, that's another thing.
Are these stories that you heard as coming up, or?
I got women. I got them as teaching. After 49 years of teaching, you do get a few things.
Right.
And then I went back and reread them.
Yeah. What about the stories? I guess what I'm trying to get at were stories, particularly since we started talking about
History.
stories, that they don't even have to be historical, but maybe stories you heard as you were coming up, and possibly, this is what I'm trying to drive at, maybe you told your students, because you have a lot of effect.
Yes, I know,
49 years, you affected a lot of students.
tremendously. When I was in the hospital, this is no joke. I was frantic. I broke this hip. And so, most of my visitors were all the girls and boys I taught. Very few. I only have a few relatives anyway, close relatives, very few. But anyway, this one girl and called me and said she had Randy's friend 40 years ago. Well, that got through the hospital to some of the people, on the nursing floor. 40 years ago. So they were very anxious to. I guess it was 40 years ago. I said, don't ask me, I'm sure. She said 40, it was 40. And she and her husband came. And I thought, well, I wouldn't know.
Would you like to know?
No, that's it.
I know, we have one that my grandmother would let that dog in and out, and in and out.
He came to the screen door, and ramble off, as you see.
I've been getting
ramble
off the track.
And I don't like that.
We all do.
But I don't like it. You better get down to what do you really want to know
I
first?
need to try to figure out if there are a system of stories that may be even countywide. They may be family legend.
All right,
but some may be countywide. So I'm going to try to get certain different people to tell me their stories.
This is a definite fact of Civil War. In my grandfather, Samuel Brown, Civil War time, Civil War, he had several sons, but one of the older sons was in the Southern Army, Henry. Now, Henry had been in the army, and he came home to get cleaned up because he was lousy, quite lousy.
Right.
And he came home. How did he come up from, where's that place? Harper's Ferry. Came from Harper's Ferry down here, and to get cleaned up and get a new horse and everything. So he came in, and of course the family cleaned him up. Now, who is his mother was a Miss Jenkins of Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Now, the Jenkinses of Baltimore that he married into, my grandfather married into, was quite wealthy. They had given to the church in Baltimore, known as Corpus Christi. That is it's a small church, but very beautiful. They also had so much money, more money than we ever had, don't worry. Right. They gave this retirement home near St. Agnes, known as the Jenkins
Memorial. Okay.
Yeah. So Elizabeth Jenkins was my grandmother. And strange, this is I want to tell you, we are very versatile in our whole history of our family, whole family. The Browns at once were Quakers, which I'm very proud of. I am very proud of.
Yes.
I have liked the Quakers. I don't know why, I just like them. But anyway, in the course of time...
Were these from Ellicott City? Were they originally, they come with the Ellicott Quakers?
No.
Separate Quakers?
They were Quakers that came down into Anne Arundel County from England. Somehow the Quakers left England, had to leave England for various reasons, and but they came in down from Virginia and came up through Anne Arundel, and in the course of time they joined other churches, put it that way.
Right.
I don't know how else to use, what other word to say. When they got to Anne Arundel County, there's where the Browns came up from Anne Arundel County here to Howard County.
Right.
We came up there, we came over from Anne Arundel to Howard. Thomas Brown, the Ranger. I think he was the second son of one of the Browns that had a big job in Anne Arundel County. Well, Thomas Brown, the Ranger, was sent out from the Annapolis government, sent this way. And he was to find two things, especially. See, the Indians were being pushed down by the Pennsylvanians, the Delawares, and New Jersey. They were all settling. And the Indians were being pushed in, further, pushed back, you might say.
Right.
And Anne Arundel County, see, Howard County was part of Anne Arundel County at one time. And they were worried, the Anne Arundel government, which was, I guess, called the state government, I was assuming,
Right.
sent Thomas Brown, the Ranger, out to find out what about the Indian activities around here. Were they friendly? Were they non-friendly Indians? What was the situation? Well, that was one of his jobs. And the other job, he was to find out more about the Patuxent River. Now, they knew the Patuxent River was a big river, and it had its main source further up the line. They knew something about that, but they did not know anything about these little feed-in to them, such as that Middle Patuxent, as you know, here in the county.
Now, this would have been prior to the building of this house. Was this around
yes,
before the Revolutionary War?
This was in 1692, because we came up here from Anne Arundel County, the Browns did, in 1692.
My goodness, and you're one of the original settlers.
Yes, we were here before the Carrolls, but we are the poor people. I want you to know we are the pioneer farmers, and the pioneer farmers didn't have very much, but that's all right. We have survived.
Right.
Anyway, so the Carrolls.
We're talking about Henry Brown. Okay, come over and you missed
Thomas Brown, the Ranger.
Oh, okay, we'll get back.
Thomas Brown, the Ranger, came. And he found out, now he did find out this little Patuxent River down here that crosses over here through Mr. Miller's old place.
Right.
If you find the source of it, was right up here, near 99, in Brown Cecil's pasture field. There was a little tiny spring.
Right.
And they were able to trace this back up to that. Now that came all through that little park they had down here on Bethany Road. There's a park given to one of the men that was the county people here. And it's been on up past Waverly, on up past back of the dump. And finally started up way up there in Brown Cecil's. I don't know if you know Brown Cecil. Brown Cecil lives on his home is on, oh my gosh, 99 and the road that goes across down to that colored nursery. I'm thinking of his name. Sand Hill Road. His place is, and he still has that. They still own that corner. And they found out that little river where it started from. That's one thing he found. And then he found. Then in the meantime, he was a surveyor. He surveyed land for them, and he got his own piece of property over here.
Which is what we're on now?
No.
Okay.
Well, partly, yes, partly. But the real original part is over at where Mertu has it, known as Good Fellowship. William Howard Brown had it, but William Howard Brown had to sell it. Well, there's reasons he had to sell it, unfortunately. But that's another story.
Now, was he the son of Thomas Brown?
No, he got that. Oh, were you eating?
No, he's nothing.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know whether he was eating something. Because he could.
Batteries.
Oh, he could. Listen, I put something, there was a pencil here, I dropped it on the floor, and next thing I knew, he was chewing it on.
Oh, I see.
Chewing it all up.
I know, dogs will do that.
Oh, terrible.
So William Howard Brown did lose some of the property.
Oh, he sold it, much to our sorrow. He sold it, and much to our sorrow. And it was given to him.
Right.
Henry G. Day, well, anyway, get back to this other man first. Thomas Brown the Ranger. Thomas Brown the Ranger built himself a little house over there. And it was built out of stones from off of the fields. He built his home. Now, many of the homes were built of brick that the brick came to our country as balusters for ships, you know. It came over from England, and England took back, tobacco and whatever else they could get. Well, to bring them over, they had to have a baluster, so that was bricks, and they used them here. That's how Carroll got his. He had the money, they could. And that's all. We didn't have the money. We didn't have anything. But that's all right. We did have spirit. But anyway, then going on. Well, then, Thomas Brown the Ranger married, and he lived over here, and he had this fieldstone house. It was just one big room, very big, I thought. I've been over there. But
Is
now
it still standing?
It's still, oh yes, the house is still standing, but it's been added to. That one big room, downstairs and upstairs, and they had a fireplace in it. It's still standing. They've added to it, like all the homes were added to as the family increased. So, then how did we get our land? I don't know. After my grandfather did inherit 40 acres from the Browns, from his father, from that over there, some piece of land over there. Then they bought this land that had been already surveyed and sold to somebody else. Don't ask me who. All the people around here bought bits of land. And because Howard's land was surveyed by Thomas Brown the Ranger. That was all around here, all these places. He surveyed a lot of land for the Anne Arundel government. Now, Anne Arundel government probably sold it to these other people.
Right.
See, I can't answer. I don't know that much. But that we assume.
Right.
Anyway, we have been here from the log cabin, which I'll show you. Maybe I should on there. What you think? That's all I'll show you. Then my grandfather lived. My grandfather lived with Elizabeth Jenkins. How she must have really loved him, and he must have loved her. I can't imagine. Because the trains had been brought out from Bolton, 1832,
right.
And it came up here, and it came up past this stuff, went as far as Henderson, then on to Sykesville, and then went on further. Well, this, believe it or not, I can't imagine it, but it's true. This was like a resort for the people in Bolton to come out here to the country. And there were several very beautiful big homes out here on this stuff, down on the hill, this stuff right there. Only one's left of it now, and remnants of it. And I think Elizabeth Jenkins had the money in Baltimore, so they came out here like many of the other young people. Mentioned that, I thought, And he must have had something that she didn't find anybody else involved that had it, because they had the money, she could have. Because he's a farmer. Farmers there, he thought Jewish. And he had homespun pants,
Right.
and they were patched. And he said, my golly, he must have had something. And she would even look at him with that, because she didn't have to, since her people gave them money for making a church and all this other stuff. But anyway, so he married her. And now my grandfather was a Presbyterian.
Right.
And Catholicism did not come into this family, to the Browns, only through two places. My grandmother Brown, who was a Catholic from Baltimore, married this Presbyterian man.
Now this is Grandmother Jenkins Brown,
Grandmother
right?
Elizabeth Jenkins Brown. She married, and they had, how many children? Two girls. They had, I guess they had 6 children. See, Henry, Frank, Tom, Dot. 6 children she had. Well, getting back, this is prior to the Civil War. And they had, she came out here, well, she married. And he remained a Presbyterian until almost time he died. Because he said, he loved her so. I said, my golly, you think different. People think different today. He loved her so that he said he wanted to die in her religion. Now, I don't say that he believed it, but that's what he wanted, to die in her religion. So, before he died, he became Catholic.
Well, she raised all the other children Catholic.
She raised, yes, they were Catholics to a certain degree. When I say they're to a certain degree, I don't know how devout a Catholic is. My father did remain that, but he did say, I will marry a Catholic woman. Anyway, my Uncle Henry did not. And he married and went to Washington. And we don't know anything about poor Uncle Henry. And Uncle Charlie died early. He was a good farmer. He died early. And Aunt Josephine died. And oh my gosh, Josephine and my gosh, I should know that was after she caused all the trouble. Ida. And Ida and Josephine remained Catholics, but they didn't marry. My father kept Catholicism. But Tom and Henry, I know, did not. That I know. It was, I would say, ecumenical. We started ecumenical a long time ago. They're talking about it now, but ecumenical was in our family on both sides. My mother's side too, because Catholicism didn't come into my mother's side till her father, who was a Methodist, a staunch Methodist, married a Miss Gorsuch from Sykesville, and she was a Catholic, and he did not come. All his children remained Catholic except one of them, the oldest boy did. But then their children became intermingled, shall we say, with all religion. I tell you, I have all but the holy rollers in our family. I could visit other churches and really feel at home.
Well, can I ask you one question about Henry? Because we got off on how Henry, because I asked you another question, but you said Henry came to clean up and get a new horse. He came from
yes,
Harper's Ferry.
Henry came back. Now this is the Revolution, Civil War. He came back to get a horse, and he got cleaned up. My Aunt Kitty, known as Faithful, who married a Captain Faithful, who was on the Union side. Now we were definitely, my grandmother, we had given the southern boy to the southern side. Here comes Captain Faithful, who was courting, they use the word courting, my great aunt, my grandfather's sister. And he was in that house. He came down on the train. from Frederick. And they met him at Woodstock. How they met him, don't ask me, I guess an old horse and buggy. Anyway, he came. And my grandfather Brown, Samuel Brown, I know he wasn't Thomas, he was Samuel Brown, was very worried about his sister. Because Uncle Henry had left the night before to go back to Harper's Ferry with his clean horse, clean clothes, and clean everything. And here the next day, he had the dinner right in that old part of the house, gone now. He had the dinner there. And Captain Faith was there. And my grandfather and my grandmother was very much on nerve. So afraid that Kitty would slip it out, not knowing that her nephew had gone back to the army. Now, he didn't know. I don't know whether he realized that they were interested in the South or not. I can't answer, because, see, Maryland was a divided line. Right. Well, anyway.
Because I understood that Ellicott City, the town proper, had a lot of Union sympathizers, whereas the people in the countryside were Southern, which made sense.
I'll give you an illustration of that. That's true. Everything went fine. And he was very relieved when Captain Faithful went back on the train that night to Frederick, because he was stationed in Frederick. Right. Well, Uncle Henry got back all right to and the war was over. Now, D.R. was very angry with the chapter, was very angry with us when they found out that my grandmother Brown, who was Elizabeth Jenkins Brown, destroyed the family Bible. Frances, my sister, she was good. I think she was ashamed that she was, but that's another story. She said, you would too. Blood is thicker than water. Her one son was in the Southern Army. Her sister-in-law was being courted by a Northerner. So you see how we were. We were just like this. We could go both ways, easy. And she decided, and the two boys, my father and Uncle Tom, wanted to go to the army. They wanted to go. They'd have gone. She destroyed the Bible because she said they would need records to prove their age. And she wouldn't have any records then. So she destroyed them. And I don't blame her. I would too. I would have destroyed them too. And, they were very angry with us to think we had no family Bible. And you know why? Well, we didn't. And I can't go.
This is for her other sons. Is that what
two
you're
other
talking
sons. Three other sons. She had 3 other sons.
Exactly. So that the
so she destroyed the Bible, which is I would too. Now, I can't help it.
I understand. As a mother, I understand particularly.
You would. And since she knew, now, Uncle Tom, the oldest one, was a runner, carrying news from this area to Marriottsville. I can't answer. What news? He was a Southerner. He was on the Southern. Now, he was, they had an old place known as an old ice house. He left these, how he got this bit of information, I haven't any idea. It was like a underground secret affair. But anyway, he was caught one time. And he was going to put him in prison or something. And showing you how dumbly they considered us farmers, and I mean people did consider us farmers pretty dumb. I don't think we were quite that dumb. I'll give you some reasons. He was a tall, gangly, really gangly old farmer son. Who in the heck would ever think he had a brain in his, just jangling around, would have any kind of know anything. So they let him go, the poor dumb thing. Didn't know.
So he acted stupid.
Yes, he acted stupid, and he could. And he looked it too. He looked gangly. He looked Well, farmers. And who the devil knows they thought the farmers had any grain? Well, you know that old Farmer Brown used to get so angry teaching that used to kill me. Oh, I was so angry when I read these stories. Farmer Brown. I said, can there be anything about it besides Farmer Brown? Oh, I can tell you, as a young teacher, that used to kill me to hear them talk about these books, Farmer Brown. Well, that's all. Well, anyway, so that goes on. Now, next big important thing, Bradley Johnson. Now, General Bradley Johnson. His name is in the old army in Baltimore. Big vineyard to him.
Now he's
no relation. He came here. He was a Southerner. Bradley Johnson was a Southerner.
A Southerner.
Yes, he was like
Confederate.
Confederate. He was like Lee. He was both of them were in the Union Army, but they both joined the Southern. Well, Bradley Johnson had a. Now, my grandpa, want to get this straight with you. We had no slaves. The man did try to prove it way back in the Revolutionary War. I said, I don't know anything about that. We had no slaves at all in the Civil War. My mother's people, the Davises, who lived at Marriagefield, did have slaves. And Bradley Johnson was sent here to destroy all the bridges that would, so the Northerners could not come in with their produce, with supplies. Now, knowing that Ellicott City was a Union sympathizer, you can easily understand it now. I understand it very well. Out here in the country, here was Bradley Johnson. He was at this house, at this very house. And they looked for him. They knew he was in the area and looked for him at my grandfather Davis's at Marriagefield. They looked up the chimney. They looked everywhere for him. Because my grandfather Davis had slaves. And we did not. So they never dreamed this man would be down here. Who would ever thought? Way down here, poor old farmers, we must have looked like the devil. Anyway, that's all right. Now, what was Bradley Johnson? Somebody questioned, well, how would Bradley Johnson destroy these bridges? Now, there's one at Woodstock. Well, how? They would take out those main stones. They didn't destroy the whole bridge. They take out the main stones, that held the bridge. And, of course, when the armies that came over, they just went down. They just didn't get through.
Kind of on top of them,
yes.
So they kind of fell into the river.
It fell right in, and so you could see, and
so it appeared to be safe.
It appeared, and
that's pretty clever.
Oh, they took out these main pieces, because many of the bridges of those days were stone, and you would take out the key, 2 or 3 of those key stones, and zip, and then who would put them back when the war was all over? They weren't destroyed. Well, any dumb-body who lived around here would know to put them back. But when you was an army, you wouldn't have time to get out here and get them again.